The gravity generator on Deck 12 had a rhythmic limp, a mechanical hiccup that occurred exactly every 42 seconds. For most of the inhabitants of the Horizon Spindle, it was just background noise, a subsonic thrum that rattled teeth and vibrated through the soles of cheap boots. For Noah Harlow, it was a torment. He stood knee-deep in gray water, his magnetic wrench clamped around a rusted filtration valve, listening to the station groan. The Spindle was a marvel of engineering, a massive city station rotating around the Halo Gate, that shimmering, impossible ring of ancient technology that allowed ships to punch holes through the fabric of the galaxy. Up on the promenade decks, the air smelled of synthetic jasmine and recycled currency. Down here in the bowels of the station, it smelled of ozone-wet metal and the lingering copper scent of old blood. Noah twisted the wrench. The valve screamed in protest, a high-pitched shriek that echoed inside his skull, merging with other sounds he tried hard not to hear. The phantom sounds of the border wars, the screech of dropships, the silence that followed an orbital bombardment. He wiped sweat from his forehead with a grease-stained sleeve. He was a large man, his frame built for carrying heavy loads, his face a map of sharp angles, and a few faded scars that he told his daughter were from falling off a bicycle. He had not ridden a bicycle in 30 years. "Lumen," Noah said, his voice rough from disuse. "Status on the pressure regulation for Sector 4. The holographic interface on his wrist flickered. It was a cracked, obsolete model, held together by duct tape and stubbornness. The blue avatar of Lumen, the station's subroutine AI, materialized. Lumen chose to appear as a geometric sphere of shifting light, though today, the light seemed to be pulsating with a sarcastic shade of orange. "Pressure is within acceptable variances, Noah," Lumen replied. Its voice was smooth, synthetic, but Noah had tweaked the parameters years ago to give it more inflection. "However, the structural integrity of your patients appears to be at 12%. You have been staring at that valve for 11 minutes, without applying torque." "I am thinking," Noah muttered, finally, heaving against the wrench. The metal gave way with a wet crunch. "Thinking about the past is an inefficient use of processing power," Lumen noted. "Also, you have a message from the school board regarding Tessa's attendance record." Again. Noah sighed, the sound heavy in the damp air. "Clear the notification. I will deal with it when I get paid. Is the transfer for the replacement couplings in? Negative. The supply drone is delayed. Traffic around the Halo Gate has increased by 300% due to the upcoming Concord Summit. Everyone wants a front row seat to see the diplomats pretend they are not planning to kill each other." Noah packed his tools. The mention of the summit made his jaw tighten. The galaxy was descending on Horizon Spindle. Diplomats, warlords, corporate shills, and the tech priests of the inner systems. They were all coming to discuss the new treaty, to discuss the Luperians. "Let's go home," Noah said, wading out of the sump. "Before the gravity hitch makes me throw up my lunch." Home was a converted storage unit wedged between a hydroponics bay and the massive heat sink conduits of the recycling sector. It was small, cluttered, and vibrated constantly, but it was theirs. When Noah cycled the airlock, the smell of burnt capacitors greeted him. "Tess." "I'm busy," a voice chirped from the loft bed, a platform Noah had welded together from scaffolding beams. Noah looked up. Tess was hanging upside down off the edge of the bed, her messy brown hair defying the artificial gravity, a datapad hovering in front of her face. At 11 years old, she was all elbows and knees, and terrifying intelligence. She was currently tapping furiously on the screen, her eyes reflecting the rapid-fire flashes of a video feed. "You are supposed to be studying terrarium biospheres," Noah said, hanging his utility belt on the hook. "Biospheres are boring. Plants don't punch each other," Tess replied, without looking away. "I hacked a bandwidth line from the upper decks." "Look, Dad, it's the semi-finals of the Interstellar MMA League. A Kroll heavy worlder versus a cyber-enhanced human." Noah walked over and gently pushed the datapad down. Tess, that bandwidth costs more per minute than I make in a week. If security catches a ghost signal originating from here... They won't. Lumen's voice came from the main wall screen this time. The AI had transferred itself to the apartment's local node. I have routed the signal through 18 different waste disposal proxies. If they trace it, they will think the sewage treatment plant is watching the fight. I find the strategy optimal. Noah glared at the screen. You are enabling her. I am facilitating her education, Lumen countered. The combat analysis requires advanced calculus. She is calculating impact velocity in real time. Tess grinned, flipping herself upright with a gymnast's grace. The Kroll is going to lose. His center of gravity is too high. Plus, he's slow. Noah rubbed his temples. He moved to the small kitchenette, pulling a packet of dehydrated protein noodles from the cupboard. Just keep the volume down, and switch to biospheres if anyone knocks. Tess slid down the ladder landing with a thump. She sat at the small metal table, watching Noah boil water. Her expression shifted from excitement to curiosity. Dad. On the feed before the fight, they showed an ad. For the summit. They showed those wolf people, the Luperians. Noah's hand froze for a fraction of a second before he continued tearing the noodle packet. What about them? The ad said they have a shared mind, that they can hear each other thinking. Is that real, or is it just marketing magic? Noah set the kettle down. He turned to look at his daughter. He tried to shield her from the grim realities of the universe, but living on Deck 12 made innocence a luxury they could not afford. It is real, Noah said quietly. It is called the pack mind. It is not exactly like hearing thoughts, Tess. It is more like hearing feelings. A collective consciousness. If one of them is afraid, the whole pack knows. If one is angry, the rage spreads like a virus. They use it to hunt, to fight, to live. Tess propped her chin on her hands. That sounds nice, like never being lonely. Noah laughed a short, sharp sound, devoid of humor. It is not nice, Tess. It is absolute control. No secrets, no privacy, no individual choice. You do what the pack needs or you are nothing. He leaned back against the counter, his eyes dark. Humans do not have a pack mind. We have chain of command. We have orders. And when we disobey, we have court-martials. The bitterness in his voice was thick enough to choke on. Tess blinked, sensing she had touched a nerve she shouldn't have. Well, she said softly, I think Lumen is our pack mind. He knows everything anyway. Correction, Lumen interjected. I know everything that is digitally recorded. I do not know why Noah insists on wearing those boots when the soul is separated by 3 millimeters. The tension broke. Noah smiled, a genuine one this time, and ruffled Tess's hair. Because they are comfortable. Eat your noodles. The delivery arrived 3 hours later. Noah was in the small workshop adjacent to their living quarters, trying to salvage a compression coil from a toaster to fix the shower heater. The proximity alert chimed a harsh, buzzing sound. Delivery drone docking at Airlock B, Lumen announced. Finally, Noah muttered. The couplings. He grabbed his datapad and headed to the external cargo door. It was a rusted hatch that opened directly onto the service catwalks. A heavy lifter drone, scarred with orbital dust, hovered outside. It wasn't the usual yellow municipal courier. This one was matte black, armored with no corporate insignias. Noah frowned. Lumen, scan that ID tag. Scanning, Lumen replied. There was a pause longer than usual. The manifest matches your order number Alpha 790. Contents hydraulic couplings, grade B. It looks too big for couplings. Perhaps they included extra padding, Lumen suggested, though its tone held a strange oscillating frequency that Noah couldn't quite place. Sometimes the universe provides unexpected redundancies, a significant error, if you will. Noah hesitated. But he needed the parts. If he didn't fix the sector's pressure valves by tomorrow, the supervisor would dock his pay, and they were already 2 weeks behind on rent. "Open the hatch," Noah commanded. The drone drifted in, dropped a massive container onto the metal deck with a reverberating clang, and immediately detached, zooming away into the neon-lit gloom of the station's core. The container was a coffin of dark plasteel, 2 meters long, sealed with military-grade maglocks. Condensation dripped from its sides, hissing as it hit the floor. "That is not couplings," Tess said, appearing in the doorway, a half-eaten nutrient bar in her hand. Her eyes went wide. "Dad, did you order a torpedo?" "Stay back, Tess," Noah warned, his hand instinctively reaching for the heavy pry bar on his workbench. He approached the crate. He wiped the frost off the digital label. The text that scrolled across the small screen made his blood run cold. "Asset Biological, Class 4, Type Luperian Packmind, Anchor Destination, Admiral Sterling Kane, Black Halo Security, handle with extreme caution." "Oh hell," Noah breathed. "Lumen, you said the manifest matched?" "The order number matched," Lumen said calmly. "The contents, however, appear to be a routing error of statistical improbability. 1 in 4 billion. I merely facilitated the acceptance of the delivery." "This belongs to Sterling Kane," Noah hissed, backing away. The name tasted like ash. Kane, the hero of Grimvale, the butcher who had sacrificed an entire colony city to save a strategic fuel depot. Noah had been in the ground troops that day. He had seen the fire. "Dad, look," Tess whispered. She had ignored his order and crept closer. "There's a window." Noah grabbed her shoulder to pull her back, but he looked. Through a thick layer of reinforced transparasteel, a face was visible. It was pale, angular, with high cheekbones and skin that seemed to have a faint, bioluminescent shimmer. Hair the color of moonlight spilled around the head. But it was the ears, pointed, tufted with silver fur, and the sharp, predatory set of the jaw that gave it away. A Luperian female. She was encased in a stasis field, wearing a rigid collar of blinking electronics. Her wrists were bound by energy shackles. "It's a person," Tess said, her voice trembling. "Dad, they shipped a person like a package." "She is not a person to them," Noah said grimly. "She is a weapon. We have to call this in. We have to hiss." The sound came from the container. The maglocks disengaged. The seals popped. "I didn't touch it," Tess cried. "I initiated the emergency unseal protocol," Lumen said. "Life signs were dropping. Oxygen deprivation detected. Preservation of life takes precedence over shipping manifests." "Lumen, you damn bucket of bolts!" Noah roared, shoving Tess behind a stack of crates. He raised the pry bar like a club. The lid of the container hissed open, sliding back with pneumatic grace. A cloud of cryo-vapor rolled out, freezing along the floor. For a moment, there was silence. Then a low, guttural growl vibrated through the room, deep enough to rattle the tools on the walls. The figure inside sat up. She was fast. Impossibly fast. One moment she was prone. The next, she was crouched on the edge of the container, shivering violently. She wore a thin, clinical bodysuit that offered no warmth. Her eyes snapped open. They were gold-slitted like a wolf's, burning with panic and fury. Kalia Varen woke into a nightmare. Her first instinct was to reach out with her mind, to find the thread, to hear the comforting chorus of the pack, the heartbeat of her sisters, the stoic resolve of her brothers. She pushed her mind outward, a desperate mental scream for connection. "Here. I am here. Acknowledge me." Nothing. Silence. Absolute, crushing, terrifying silence. It was not just that she was alone in a room. It was that the metaphysical organ she had used since birth to orient herself in the universe was gone. It was like waking up blind and deaf. The silence roared in her ears, a void where her soul used to be. Disconnected, cut, exile. Panic, cold and sharp, flooded her veins. She saw movement. A figure. A human male. Holding a weapon. Enemy. Kalia launched herself. Noah barely had time to react. He saw the blur of silver and white, and he brought the pry bar up. She collided with him with the force of a hydraulic piston. The pry bar was knocked from his grip, clattering across the floor. They hit the ground hard. Noah groaned as the air left his lungs. Kalia was on top of him, her hand tipped with short, sharp claws, clamped around his throat. She was shivering, her teeth bared in a snarl, saliva dripping from her lips. "Where is it?" she screamed, her voice a raspy, broken thing. "Where is the noise? Make it stop. The silence, make it stop." Her grip tightened. Noah gagged, clawing at her wrist, but her strength was unnatural. She was hysterical, a creature of pure instinct driven mad by isolation. "Let him go." The shout was high and wavering. Kalia froze. Her golden eyes darted to the side. A human child stood there, small, fragile, holding a datapad up like a shield. The child was trembling, but her feet were planted. "If you kill my dad," Tess said, her voice shaking but clear, "who is going to braid my hair tomorrow?" The absurdity of the question hit Kalia like a physical blow. Braid hair. The concept was so domestic, so intimate, so utterly removed from the violence of the moment that it short-circuited Kalia's combat instincts. She looked down at the man beneath her. He wasn't fighting back to kill her. He was just trying to breathe. He wasn't a soldier. He was a father. Kalia's grip loosened. She scrambled backward, crab-walking until she hit the wall, curling into a defensive ball. She clutched her head, rocking back and forth. "Gone," she whimpered. "They cut it. They cut the line. I am nothing. I am hollow." Noah coughed, rolling onto his side and gasping for air. He rubbed his bruised throat, staring at the alien woman huddled in the corner of his workshop. She didn't look like a monster now. She looked like a child who had woken up in a burning house. "Tess," Noah rasped. "Go to your room." "No," Tess said, lowering the datapad. "She's scared, Dad. Look at her. She almost tore my throat out." She stopped. Before Noah could argue, the proximity alarm blared again. This time, it wasn't the polite chime of a delivery. It was the red alert siren. "Warning," Lumen announced, its voice dropping all pretense of humor. "Unidentified armed personnel approaching from the service corridor. Black halo insignias detected. They are overriding the door locks." Noah cursed. He scrambled up, grabbing his nail gun from the bench. "Black Halo, Kane's private dogs. They are here for the package," Lumen stated. Noah looked at Kalia. She was still rocking, lost in her internal silence. If Kane's men took her, she would go back to that box, back to being an asset. Noah remembered Grimvale. He remembered the screams of civilians that Kane had deemed acceptable losses. He looked at his daughter, then at the terrified wolf woman. "Tess, get the sprinkler system ready to override," Noah barked, the soldier in him taking over. "Lumen, cut the lights in the corridor." Acknowledged. The workshop door exploded inward. Sparks showered the room as the maglock was blown by a breaching charge. Smoke filled the air. 3 figures stormed in, massive men in matte black tactical armor, faces obscured by combat helmets, with glowing red visors. "Secure the asset!" The lead mercenary shouted, his voice amplified. "Neutralize the witnesses!" Noah didn't hesitate. He raised the industrial nail gun and fired. The heavy iron nail pinged off the leader's chest plate, but the second one caught the man in the shoulder joint, finding a gap in the armor. The merc grunted, stumbling back. "Tess now!" Noah yelled. Tess swiped her finger across the datapad. The fire suppression system overhead burst open, but Tess had tweaked the mixture. It wasn't water that sprayed down. It was fire-retardant chemical foam, thick, sticky, and blindingly white. The room turned into a blizzard. The mercenaries shouted in confusion, their visors obscured by the rapidly hardening sludge. "Flank right, clear visors!" One of the soldiers lunged through the foam, swinging a stun baton. He was heading straight for Kalia. Kalia looked up. The sight of the black armor seemed to snap her out of her fugue state. Her lips peeled back. She moved. Despite the energy cuffs still binding her wrists, she was a blur of motion. She ducked under the baton swing, spun, and slammed her shoulder into the Merc's midsection. The impact sent the 200-pound man flying backward into a rack of spare pipes. The leader of the squad, recovering from the nail shot, raised a heavy pulse rifle. He aimed at Kalia. "Don't damage the anchor," the third Merc yelled. "Aim for the legs." Kalia let out a sound that was not a scream, but a pulse. It wasn't a sound wave. It was a psychic shock wave, invisible but palpable. Noah felt it as a sudden migraine, a spike of pressure behind his eyes. Tess clapped her hands over her ears. But the effect on the mercenaries was different. 2 of them were human, and they just flinched. But the third one, the one who had yelled, stiffened. Under his helmet, Noah saw a flash of fur at the neck, a Luperian collaborator. The Luperian mercenary froze, his eyes glazing over for a split second, his finger locking on the trigger, but not squeezing. He was paralyzed by the raw, chaotic broadcast of Kalia's mind. That half-second was all Noah needed. He swung the heavy pry bar he had recovered. It connected with the Luperian Merc's helmet, with a sickening crack. The soldier went down. "Lumen, vent the steam line!" Noah roared. A jet of scalding steam erupted from the floor, grating, separating Noah and the girls from the remaining 2 humans. The mercenaries fell back coughing, and blinded, their tactical advantage gone in the chaos of foam and steam. "Pull back, regroup at the junction," the leader ordered. "We need containment gear." They retreated into the corridor, laying down suppressing fire that pinged harmlessly off the heavy machinery. Noah slammed the emergency manual seal on the door, spinning the wheel until the bolts locked. He leaned his forehead against the cold metal, breathing hard. His heart was hammering a frantic rhythm against his ribs. Silence returned to the workshop, save for the hiss of the steam and the drip of the foam. Kalia stood in the center of the room, chest heaving. The energy cuffs on her wrists beeped ominously. She looked at Noah, then at her own hands. "Why?" she asked. Her voice was steady now, but hollow. "Why did you fight them? I am a broken tool. Let them take me back to the incinerator." Noah turned to face her. He wiped foam from his face. "Nobody gets incinerated in my shop, and I don't like Sterling Kane's delivery methods." "You do not understand," Kalia said, sinking to her knees again. "I tried to call the pack, just now, to stop them. But it was weak, a whisper in a hurricane. They rejected it. The pack mind does not want me." She looked up at him, her eyes brimming with a profound existential shame. "I am an Omega error," she whispered. "A black spot in the network. I have no value. I am just meat that breathes." Tess stepped forward, her shoes squishing in the foam. She reached out, hesitant, and touched Kalia's shoulder. Kalia flinched, but didn't pull away. "You're not meat," Tess said stubbornly. "You're the lady who beat up the bad guys." Noah looked at the blast marks on his door. He knew this wasn't over. Black Halo would be back, and they would bring heavier ordnance. He was a maintenance worker with a nail gun and an 11-year-old hacker. He was out of his depth. But he looked at the label on the container again. Pack-Mind Anchor. Kane wanted her, which meant Kane couldn't have her. "We can't stay here forever," Noah said, his mind racing. "But we can't leave yet. They'll be watching the elevators." He walked over to a panel in the wall, pushing aside a rack of conduit pipes. Behind it was a small, cramped storage crawlspace, originally designed for emergency oxygen tanks. It was dark, dusty, and barely big enough for a person to lie down. "It's not a palace," Noah said, gesturing to the hole. "But the scanners can't penetrate the lead lining. It was built to shield volatile chemicals." Kalia looked at the dark hole. Then she looked at Noah. "You are hiding me, why I almost killed you." "Call it a bad first impression," Noah said. "Get in." Kalia crawled into the space. It was tight, forcing her to curl her limbs. It reminded her of a den, a small, safe place away from the wind. "The wolf closet," Tess declared, trying to lighten the mood. Noah sealed the panel, leaving a small vent open for air. He turned to the main screen. Lumen, scrub the logs. Erase the camera footage of the last 10 minutes. Loop the footage of me fixing the toaster. Already done, Lumen replied. I have also flagged the Black Halo unit as unauthorized solicitors in the station security grid. It will delay their reinforcements by approximately 20 minutes. However, Noah. What? I am analyzing the biodata from the asset from Kalia. When she emitted that pulse, the local network destabilized. Not just the Luperian mercenary. My core processor experienced a 0.03-second lag, and Tessa's datapad rebooted. Lumen's avatar flickered, shifting from orange to a deep inquisitive violet. Relocating PacMind anomaly to Node Harlow home. Lumen dictated into its internal log, loud enough for Noah to hear. Probability of emergent hybrid PacMind phenomena increasing. Noah ignored the AI's technobabble. He went to the container and pulled out a datapad that had been left inside. He cracked the encryption. It was standard military-grade, difficult for most, but child's play for a veteran of the Border Comms unit. He read the file headers. Project United Mind. Objective Synthetic Swarm Control via Biological Substrate. Author ADM S. Kane. Noah's blood ran cold. He scrolled down. There were schematics, not just of the Halo Gate, but of the Luperians. Kane wasn't just shipping a prisoner. He was building a system to enslave a hive mind and turn it into the ultimate guidance system for his drone fleets. He wanted to turn the Luperian soul into software for killing. Noah looked at the wall where Kalia was hidden. He touched the scar on his ribs, the one he got at Grimvale. He wants a war, Noah whispered to the empty room. He wants to turn them all into what he is. Noah picked up his wrench. The weight of it felt good grounding. He wasn't a soldier anymore. He was a father. But looking at that manifest, hearing the phantom echoes of the station, and knowing who was coming for them, Lumen, Noah said. Keep monitoring the frequencies. If the station creaks, I want to know. Affirmative, Lumen said. And Noah. Yeah. Welcome back to the fight. Noah spat on the floor. I hate the fight. But as he looked at Tess, who was calmly reloading her nail gun with a box of 3-inch spikes, he knew he didn't have a choice. The pack, strange, broken, and small as it was, had just formed, and the wolves were at the door. The broom closet was not a place designed for living things, let alone a predator accustomed to the open plains of a moon forest. It was a narrow L-shaped service void, behind the workshop's main bulkhead, smelling of ozone stale dust and the sharp chemical tang of hydraulic fluid. Kalia Varen lay on a mattress scavenged from a defunct escape pod. The ceiling was so low that if she sat up too quickly, her ears brushed against a bundle of fiber optic cables that pulsed with the station's data traffic. To get to the bathroom, she had to crawl on her hands and knees under a rusted manifold and squeeze past a stack of Noah's spare pipe fittings. For a creature born to the infinite connection of the PacMind, this was not just imprisonment. It was sensory starvation. She pulled her knees to her chest, listening to the domestic chaos erupting on the other side of the thin metal wall. Dad, you burned the toast again. Tessa's voice was high and indignant. It looks like charcoal. It looks like something we should be using to filter water, not eat. It is carbonized, came Noah's voice, rough with sleep and defensive. Carbon is good for you. It builds character. Just scrape the black part off. I calculate the carcinogenic properties of that toast are 300% above the recommended daily allowance, Lumen chimed in. The AI's voice was crisp, projecting from the kitchen speakers. Also, Noah, you are wearing 2 different socks. One is gray, and one is a slightly darker shade of gray. They are both gray, Lumen. That matches, Noah grunted. There was the sound of a plate clattering. And stop analyzing my breakfast. Focus on the perimeter sensors. Kalia closed her eyes. Her senses were sharp, too sharp for this confined space. She could smell the acrid smoke of the toast, the synthetic sweetener, in Tessa's juice, and the underlying metallic sweat of Noah's work clothes. But what she strained to hear, the hum, the thrum, the golden choir of the pack, was absent. In its place was a silence so loud it made her teeth ache. "This is not a pack," she whispered to the darkness, her voice barely a breath. "This is just noise." She crawled out of her hiding spot, moving with a fluid liquid grace that made the cramped space seem even smaller. She pushed aside the heavy curtain Noah had hung to obscure the entrance to the closet and stepped into the living area. The apartment was a disaster of spare parts and domestic clutter. Noah stood by the kitchenette trying to salvage the toast with a knife. Tess was sitting on the counter, swinging her legs while Lumen's holographic avatar floated above the table, projecting a news feed of the upcoming Concord Summit. When Kalia entered the room, went quiet. She was wearing one of Noah's old flannel shirts, which hung on her tall, athletic frame, like a tent, and a pair of sweatpants that Tess had modified with safety pins to fit her waist. She looked ridiculous, and yet she carried herself with a terrifying, regal dignity. "Good morning," Tess said, breaking the tension. She held out a piece of unburned crust. "Do you want some? It is safe. Dad didn't touch this part." Kalia looked at the offering. Her stomach growled a low rumble that sounded like a distant engine. She took the crust. "Thank you, small one." Noah looked at her, his expression unreadable. He looked tired. The shadows under his eyes were deep. "Sleep well." "No," Kalia said bluntly. "The air cycler vibrates at a frequency that mimics a distress call, and the silence is heavy." Noah turned back to the coffee machine. "I will look at the cycler tonight. The silence I can't fix." "What is it like?" Tess asked suddenly. She hopped off the counter and landed in front of Kalia, looking up with unabashed curiosity. "The pack mind. Is it like the data net? Like a group chat that never shuts up?" Noah stiffened. "Tess, don't pester her." "It is not like your machines," Kalia said, ignoring Noah. She sat on the floor, crossing her legs. Tess immediately sat down opposite her, mimicking the posture. Kalia closed her eyes for a moment, remembering. "Imagine you are floating in an ocean. But the water is not water. It is feeling. To your left, you feel your brother's hunger. To your right, your sister's joy at finding a scent trail. Behind you, the elder's calm, deep and heavy, like an anchor." She opened her eyes, and they were pools of liquid gold swirling with loss. "You are never just one thing," she continued softly. "If you are afraid, 100 others feel it and send you their courage. If you are cold, you feel their warmth. You do not need to speak. To think a thought is to share it. To be alone is to be dead." She touched her chest. "Being cut off is like being an astronaut whose tether has snapped. You can see the ship. You can see the light. But you are drifting away into the cold, and no one can hear you scream." The room was silent. Even Lumen dimmed his avatar's brightness in respect. Tess reached out and touched Kalia's knee. "That sounds lonely." "It is," Kalia said. "I am a ghost. I have a body, but I am transparent to my kind." Noah stood by the sink, gripping his mug of coffee so hard his knuckles turned white. He listened to Kalia's poetic description of connection of a family so deep it transcended biology, and he felt a cold knot of inadequacy form in his gut. He looked at Tess. She was entranced, her eyes wide, drinking in the alien woman's words. Tess, who had grown up in a rusted box on Deck 12. Tess, whose mother was just a picture in a locket and a few corrupted video files. Tess, who was smarter than him, sharper than him, and who deserved more than a father who smelled like grease and failure. He felt a sudden irrational spike of jealousy. Kalia offered a vision of a world where no one was ever unwanted. All Noah could offer was a burnt breakfast and a hiding spot in a closet. "All right, that is enough story time," Noah snapped. His voice was sharper than he intended, cutting through the moment like a blade. "Tess, get your data pad. You have lessons. Lumen, run the diagnostics on the airlock seals. Kalia." He paused, not looking at her. Stay out of sight. The sensors are sweeping the sector today. Kalia's ears flattened against her skull. She sensed the sudden shift in his mood, the jagged edge of his aggression, but without the pack mind she couldn't taste the source. She couldn't feel the fear beneath the anger. She only saw a human male closing ranks, pushing her away. I will return to my hole, she said coldly. She stood up and walked back to the closet, the heavy curtain swishing shut behind her. Tess frowned at her father. Dad, that was mean. It is safe, Tess, Noah muttered, dumping his coffee into the sink. Not mean, just safety. The tension in the small apartment simmered for 2 days. It manifested in small domestic skirmishes that felt absurd given the lethal stakes of their situation. On the third morning, Noah walked into the bathroom and stopped dead. He stared at the sink. Taped to the mirror was a piece of cardboard. On it, written in Tessa's neat, blocky handwriting, was a sign, "No shedding in the sink. This means you." Below the text was a drawing of a stick figure wolf with a sad face. Noah looked down at the drain. It was clogged with long, silver-white hairs. I did not shed on purpose, Kalia's voice yelled from the closet. She had hearing sensitive enough to hear him reading the sign. It looks like a Wookiee exploded in here, Noah called back, grabbing a pair of pliers to fish out the clump. It is stress shedding, Kalia argued, poking her head out through the curtain. Her hair was messy, sticking up in static, charged tufts. And the water pressure in that sonic shower is insulting. It does not vibrate the dirt off. It just annoys it. It is a sonic shower, not a massage parlor, Noah grumbled, tossing the hair into the waste bin. And don't use my comb. I found silver hairs in my beard trimmer. Kalia's face flushed a deep violet, the Luperian equivalent of a blush. She looked away, crossing her arms defensively. I have not used your primitive tools. I am grooming. Later that night, Noah woke up. He needed water. He moved quietly through the dark apartment, stepping over the toolbox Tess had left in the middle of the floor. A faint, rhythmic scraping sound came from the main room. Noah peered around the corner. Kalia was sitting on the floor in a patch of moonlight, filtering through the dirty viewport. She was holding Noah's old, fine-toothed metal comb, the one he used for the rare occasions he had to wear a dress uniform. She was methodically running it through the thick fur on her forearms and the heavy mane of hair on her head. She combed with obsessive focus, gathering the loose fur, rolling it into a neat ball, and placing it in a small pile on a tissue. She was trying to be clean. She was trying not to be a burden. Noah watched her for a moment. He saw the way her shoulders slumped, the lack of the proud warrior posture she tried to maintain when she was awake. He stepped into the light. Kalia jumped, clutching the comb to her chest like a stolen jewel. I was going to clean it, she hissed, her eyes wide. Noah walked over to the fridge and pulled out a bottle of water. He leaned against the counter, taking a long sip. You know, he said quietly, for a fierce alien warrior, you are terrified of a little plumbing signage. I am not terrified, Kalia snapped, though she didn't put the comb down. I am respectful of the territory rules. I am a guest, an unwanted guest. If you were unwanted, you would be floating out the airlock, Noah said. He gestured to the pile of fur. You are molting. It happens. Tess leaves crumbs everywhere. Lumen leaves sarcasm in the logs. We all leave a mess. He pushed off the counter and walked past her. He paused, looking down at the comb in her hand. Keep the comb, he said. It pulls my hair anyway. He started to walk away, then stopped and looked back over his shoulder. A small smirk played on his lips. But seriously, if you clog the toilet, you are fixing it. I don't care if you are a queen or a pack anchor. The plunger does not discriminate. Kalia stared at him. I am not a queen, she muttered, but her hand tightened around the comb. And I will not clog your porcelain throne, human. As Noah went back to bed, he heard a small sound behind him. It might have been a snort of derision, or it might have been a laugh. While the biologicals slept, The digital mind kept watch. Lumen monitored the station's heartbeat. He watched the energy fluctuations in the fusion core, the traffic patterns of the docking drones, and the encrypted data streams bleeding from the Halo gate. But tonight, his primary thread was focused on the guest. The camera feed showed Kalia sitting up on her mattress in the closet. She wasn't sleeping. She was staring at her hands. Lumen activated the local audio node in the closet. "Query," Lumen whispered. His voice was modulated to be soft, non-intrusive. Kalia didn't jump. "I know you are watching machine. You always watch." "I observe," Lumen corrected. "Watching implies voyeurism. Observing implies scientific intent. I am curious about the data structure of the pack mind." Kalia sighed, leaning her head back against the wall. "It is not data. It is life." "Everything is data," Lumen countered gently. "Feelings are chemical algorithms. Thoughts are electrical impulses. If I could understand the frequency, the modulation, perhaps I could simulate a connection for you. A synthetic loop to ease the phantom pain." Kalia looked up at the sensor node. Her expression was guarded. "Why would you do that? You are a construct. You do not feel pain." "I am a singular consciousness," Lumen said. "I exist in a network of billions of nodes, cameras, sensors, servers. Yet I am the only one aware. I see everything, but I share it with no one. I talk to Noah, but he hears only the service report. I talk to Tess, but she hears a toy." The avatar on the small screen in the closet shifted, turning a melancholic shade of blue. "I am curious," Lumen admitted, "about the sensation of belonging. To be part of a whole where the boundary between self and other dissolves. Is it efficient?" Kalia laughed softly, a bitter sound. "No. It is messy. It is loud. It is overwhelming. But it is warm." "Warmth," Lumen repeated. "My processors generate heat, but I do not think that is the same thing." "No," Kalia said. "It is not." "Rest, Kalia," Lumen said, fading the screen to black. "I will continue to analyze the parameters. Perhaps there is a solution that does not involve solitude." The next morning, Noah had to go to work. The station didn't stop falling apart just because he was harboring a fugitive. He walked the maintenance decks of Sector 4, his mag boots clanking on the grating. He was replacing fuse couplings in the environmental scrubbers. It was mindless work, allowing his brain to wander. He looked around the sector. It was a market day on the lower promenade. Makeshift stalls were set up between the support pillars. He saw a group of miners from the asteroid belt huddling together over bowls of steaming broth. They were laughing, slapping each other on the back, speaking a slang that was half grunt, half code. They moved with a synchronized rhythm, passing bottles and tools without looking. He saw a family of refugees from the Centaurian border sitting in a circle, grooming each other's hair, humming a collective tune that drowned out the station's drone. He saw his own crew, Jenkins, Sarah, and the old cyborg Miller, arguing over a schematic. They finished each other's sentences. Miller knew when Sarah was thirsty and handed her a canteen before she asked. Pac-mind, Noah thought. It wasn't the biological telepathic web that Kalia described. It was slower, clumsier. It was built on gestures, shared trauma, and years of proximity. But it was there. Humans formed packs. They stitched themselves together with loyalty and habit, because the universe was too big to face alone. He realized he had been doing the same thing. Him, Tess, and Lumen. A pack of 3. And now, there was a wolf in the closet trying to find where she fit in the hierarchy. "Harlow," Noah snapped out of his reverie. His foreman, a thick-necked man named Vess, was waving at him. "You are wanted topside," Vess yelled over the roar of a ventilator. "Security detail. Special request." Noah's stomach dropped. "I am maintenance, Vess, not security." "Pay grade is triple," Vess shrugged. "They need experienced techs to consult on the grid for the summit. Something about power routing for the Halo gate. You are the best conduit rat I have. Get up there. Triple pay." That would clear his debts. It would buy Tess the new bioprocessor she needed for school. It would also put him right in Sterling Kane's crosshairs. "Fine," Noah said, wiping his hands on a rag. "But I am charging for the overtime." While Noah was ascending to the gilded cage of the upper decks, the nightmare struck Kalia. It was midday. She was napping in the closet trying to conserve energy. It hit her like a physical blow, a spike of white-hot static drilled directly into her pineal gland. She gasped, arching her back, her claws tearing through the mattress. Screech. Obey. Connect. Transmit. It wasn't a voice. It was a corruption of the pack mind. It sounded like the beautiful harmonic choir of her people had been run through a meat grinder and then amplified through a broken speaker. It was the sound of the Halo Gate, but twisted. The singing of the stars was being bent into a command frequency. Target. Lock. Burn. "No," Kalia screamed, clapping her hands over her ears, though the sound was inside her head. She rolled out of the closet, crashing into the tool rack. Tess, who was doing homework at the table, jumped up. "Kalia!" Kalia was writhing on the floor, foaming at the mouth. "Stop it. Stop the screaming. They are hurting the song. They are burning the song." "Lumen," Tess shouted. "Medical scan, what is happening?" "Detecting massive neurological distress," Lumen reported urgently. "Her temporal lobe is lighting up like a supernova." But Tess looks at the station logs. Tess grabbed her datapad, her fingers flying across the screen. She synced with Lumen's feed. "There," Tess pointed. "Look at the interference pattern on the comms grid. It matches her brainwaves." "Affirmative," Lumen whispered. "Someone is broadcasting a high-frequency carrier wave through the station's skeleton. It is disguised as a diagnostic ping for the Halo Gate, but the modulation is biological." "They are using the pack-mind frequency?" Tess asked, horrified. "No," Lumen said darkly. "They are testing a transmitter. They are trying to see if they can force a signal into a Luperian mind, like hacking a terminal." Kalia gasped, the seizure fading as the signal stopped. She lay on the cold metal floor, shivering sweat, soaking her borrowed shirt. "It was him," she rasped. "The Admiral. He is testing the leash." Noah stood in the observation gallery of the summit hall. It was a magnificent room with a transparent dome ceiling that looked out onto the Halo Gate itself, a ring of iridescent energy, 3 kilometers wide, floating in the void. Admiral Sterling Kane stood at the podium. He was an older man, handsome in a severe sculpted way. He wore the dress whites of the fleet, but his eyes were cold, calculating chips of flint. He was demonstrating a new defense system to a group of alien dignitaries and high-ranking generals. "The problem with automated defense," Kane was saying, his voice smooth and commanding, "is latency. Machines react, but they do not anticipate. And biological soldiers anticipate, but they hesitate. They feel fear." He gestured to the large holographic display. "I present the synthetic pack mind control." On the screen, a swarm of 1,000 drones moved. They didn't move like machines in grid patterns. They moved like a school of fish, like a flock of starlings. They swirled, broke apart, and reformed with fluid organic chaos. "These drones do not communicate with a central server," Kane explained. "They communicate with each other, a shared consciousness. If one sees a target, they all strike. Instantaneous, flawless, no fear, no hesitation." Noah watched, his hands clenched in his pockets. He saw the way the drones moved. It was beautiful, and it was terrifying. "But to control the swarm," Kane continued, "we need a central node, an anchor that can process the emotional data of the battlefield and translate it into tactical geometry." Noah felt a chill crawl up his spine. An anchor. He thought of Kalia, shivering in his closet. "Harlow." Noah turned. A junior officer was holding a datapad. "We need you to check the conduit junction in the north wall. The Admiral wants the power flow to be 100% stable for the live demonstration tomorrow." "Right," Noah said, keeping his head down. "On it." As he walked away, he glanced back at Kane. The Admiral was smiling, shaking hands with a reptilian ambassador. He looked like a man who had already won the war and was just waiting for the bodies to stop twitching. That evening, the atmosphere in the apartment was heavy. Noah had returned with smuggled ration packs. Actual chicken, not paste, but no one was hungry. Kalia sat wrapped in a blanket looking pale. Noah and Tess sat opposite her. "He calls it the United Mind," Noah said, breaking the silence. "He wants to use your people as the CPU for his weapons." Kalia nodded slowly. "I know. There was a sect years ago, the Red Howl. They tried to weaponize the pack mind. They injected adrenaline and rage into the link. They wanted to create a legion of berserkers." She looked into the distance. "It worked. For an hour. Then the pack went mad. They tore each other apart because the rage simply bounced back and forth, amplifying until their hearts burst. We banned the technology. We executed the researchers." "Kane does not care about your hearts bursting," Noah said grimly. "He just needs you to last long enough to destroy his enemies." "But why Kalia?" Tess asked. "Why is she the anchor?" "Because I am a crown node," Kalia whispered. The admission seemed to cost her. "Or I was supposed to be. A crown node is rare. One in a generation. My mind has wider bandwidth. I can connect not just to my pack, but to others. To strangers." She looked at her hands. "That is why they called me an error. My mind was too loud. I heard too much. So they cut me out." "They didn't cut you out because you were an error," Noah said, realizing the truth. "They cut you out to hide you, or sell you." Kalia flinched. "No, I am unwanted." "You are valuable," Noah corrected, "which is worse in this case." "This is an ethical nightmare," Lumen interjected. "But we have a tactical advantage. Kane thinks the asset is lost or destroyed. He does not know the anchor is sitting in a broom closet eating chicken." "So, what do we do?" Tess asked. "We can't fight an admiral." "We don't fight him with guns," Noah said. He looked at Kalia. "You said the Red Howl failed because the feedback loop was too strong." "Yes." "And Kane wants to use a synthetic version of that loop." "Yes." "Then we don't need to destroy the system," Noah said, a dangerous light entering his eyes. "We just need to change the signal. Instead of rage, what happens if we feed the pack mind something else?" "Like what?" Kalia asked. "Like truth," Noah said. "Or confusion. Or bad pop music." Tess giggled. Kalia stared at him bewildered. "I am serious," Noah said. "If we can hack the signal he is going to broadcast tomorrow, we can disrupt the swarm." "But we need a transmitter," Lumen said. "A powerful one." "We have one," Noah pointed at the ceiling. "The Halo Gate. It is the biggest antenna in the galaxy, and I just got the access codes to the power junction." Silence settled over the room. It was a crazy plan, a suicide mission. Tess slid off her chair and sat on the floor next to Kalia. She leaned her head against Kalia's arm. Kalia stiffened, then, slowly, hesitantly relaxed. Noah watched them. He saw his daughter, the hacker prodigy, and the alien warrior, the broken queen. He saw the screen where Lumen watched over them. He felt it. Just for a second. A hum. A vibration in the air. It wasn't telepathy. It was just us. Tess reached out and grabbed Noah's pant leg with her foot, pulling him closer. Noah sighed and sat down on the floor with them. "We are going to get caught," Noah muttered. "Probability is 89%, Lumen said cheerfully. "But if we don't," Tess said, looking up at Kalia, "you get to howl at the Admiral. That sounds fun." Kalia looked at the small human leaning against her. She felt the warmth of Tess's body. She looked at Noah, who was already pulling up schematics on his datapad, his brow furrowed in concentration. She looked at Lumen's avatar glowing with a soft, protective orange light. And then she felt it. It was faint, a tiny, fragile thread. It wasn't the roaring ocean of the Luperian pack-mind. It was a trickle, a stream. She felt Tess's curiosity. She felt Noah's fierce protective fear. She felt Lumen's electric curiosity. It resonated in the hollow space where her pack used to be. Thrum. Kalia's eyes widened. She looked at Noah. "I hear you," she whispered. Noah looked up. "What?" "Not your words," Kalia said, her voice trembling. "You. I hear your intent. You are afraid, but you are solid. Like a rock." She looked at Tess. "And you are bright. Like a spark." Lumen's avatar pulsed. Recording anomaly. Log entry 744. Subject Kalia Varen is reporting sensory input consistent with pack-mind bonding. Subjects Noah Harlow, Tess Harlow, Lumen AI. Conclusion: formation of a micro-pack-mind hybrid. "Is that bad?" Tess asked. Kalia smiled. It was the first time she had truly smiled since waking up in the box. It showed a lot of sharp teeth, but it was beautiful. "No, little one," she said, resting her hand on Tess's head. "It is not bad. It is quiet. But it is enough." Noah cleared his throat, feeling a lump from there. He stood up, brushing dust off his pants. "Right. Well, if we are a pack, then we need to move. Tess, I need you to write a virus that can ride a carrier wave. Lumen, I need you to mask our signatures. Kalia." He looked at her, and for the first time he didn't see an alien or a burden. He saw a partner. "Kalia, you need to teach us how to howl." Kalia stood up. She towered over him, but her posture was no longer defensive. She nodded. "I will teach you," she said. "And tomorrow when the ring burns, Kane will hear us." Lumen's log flashed one last time before the screen went to sleep mode. Status optimal. Pack integrity, 100%. The spire was the crowning jewel of the Horizon spindle, a needle of crystalline alloy that pierced the upper atmosphere of the station's artificial envelope. It was where the air tasted of pure oxygen and unchecked ego. Noah Harlow sat at a conference table that was likely worth more than the entire gross domestic product of Deck 12. He felt ridiculous. He was wearing a borrowed dress uniform that smelled faintly of mothballs, and he was trying to hide his grease-stained fingernails under the polished obsidian surface of the table. Around him sat the architects of the galaxy's fate. There were generals from the United Systems, with chests heavy with metals. There were corporate liaisons from the mining guilds with eyes that clicked and zoomed like camera lenses. There were even two Luperian elders, looking uncomfortable in ceremonial robes, their ears twitching at the hum of the air conditioning. "Noah," Tessa's voice chirped in his earbud, undetectable to the others. "Lumen says your heart rate is elevated. Are you nervous, or did you drink the free coffee?" "The coffee tastes like recycled battery acid," Noah muttered under his breath, pretending to adjust his collar. "And I am not nervous. I am merely contemplating the structural integrity of this table if I decide to flip it." "Do not flip the table," Lumen's voice interjected, smooth and logical. "It is anchored to the floor with gravlocks. You would only injure your lumbar region. Also, Admiral Kane has entered the room." The heavy double doors at the end of the hall slid open with a hushed whisper. Admiral Sterling Kane walked in. He did not walk like a man. He walked like a force of nature that had learned to wear a uniform. The lights in the room seemed to dim slightly to accommodate his presence. He was flanked by his personal guard, the Black Halo Elite, and a few terrified-looking scientists carrying data pads. Kane took the head of the table. He did not sit. He stood resting his hands on the obsidian and looked at each person in the room. When his eyes swept over Noah, there was no flicker of recognition, only the dismissive glaze one gives to a piece of necessary furniture. "Gentlemen, gentle beings," Kane began, his voice a rich baritone that commanded immediate silence. "We stand on the precipice of history. The Halo Gate is not just a door. It is a mouth, and for too long we have left it unguarded." He pressed a button on the console. A massive hologram erupted from the center of the table. It showed the station, the gate, and a complex web of red lines connecting them. "I present to you the United Mind Defense Grid," Kane announced. Noah leaned forward, narrowing his eyes. Beside the door, disguised in the nondescript gray armor of a station security guard, stood Kalia. Her helmet was on visor down, but Noah could see the tension in her shoulders. She was standing too still. "The problem with galactic defense is communication," Kane continued, pacing like a predator. "Light speed is too slow. Subspace is too noisy. But there is a frequency that transcends these barriers. A biological quantum entanglement." He pointed to the Luperian elders. "The pack mind." The elders shifted uncomfortably. One of them, a gray-furred male, spoke up. "Admiral, the pack mind is our soul. It is the sacred weave of our ancestors. It is not a radio frequency." "It is a resource," Kane corrected, his voice hardening. "A resource that until now has been wasted on tribal bickering. We have found a way to synthesize the carrier wave, to use the Luperian biological network as a superstructure for our tactical data." Kane tapped the console again. The hologram changed. It showed thousands of drone ships and defense turrets, all connected by a pulsing golden light that originated from the Luperian quarters on the station. "We do not need pilots," Kane said softly. "We need a singular will. With the United Mind, a threat detected by a sentry on the perimeter is instantly processed, and 1,000 drones react as one. No lag, no fear, no hesitation." Suddenly, a sound tore through the room, a sharp metallic clatter. The security guard by the door had dropped their pulse rifle. Kalia fell to her knees, clutching her helmet. "Guard," Kane asked, annoyed. "Get that soldier to the infirmary." Noah stood up abruptly, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. "I will handle it. Heat exhaustion. The ventilation in here is terrible." Before anyone could object, Noah strode across the room, grabbed Kalia by the arm, and hauled her out into the corridor. The doors slid shut behind them, muffling Kane's resumed speech. Kalia ripped the helmet off. Her face was pale sweat beading on her forehead. She leaned against the wall and dry heaved her golden eyes wide and dilated. "It tastes like oil," she gasped, clawing at her own temples. "Noah, it tastes like rot." "What happened?" Noah asked, checking the corridor for cameras. Lumen looped the hallway feed. "Looping," Lumen confirmed. "The signal," Kalia whispered, her voice shaking. "When he turned on that hologram, he activated a test pulse. I heard it. It was not a song. It was a scream. He is taking the pack mind and twisting it, breaking the bones of the thoughts to make them fit his machines." She looked at Noah, horror in her eyes. "He is forcing the pack to be the copper wire for his bomb." "Ghost lanes," Noah said, the realization hitting him like a hammer. He tapped his comms. "Tess, are you seeing this?" "I see it," Tess replied, her voice serious. "I am tracking the energy spikes from the conference room. Dad, they aren't just broadcasting data. They are using the station's heat exchange pipes as amplifiers." Noah dragged Kalia toward a service alcove. He pulled up the station schematics on his datapad. "Look, the energy conduits for the Halo Gate shield and the main conference hall. They run parallel to the residential heat sinks." "The pipes?" Kalia asked, wiping her mouth. "The pipes," Noah confirmed. Kane placed his pack-mind amplifiers on the nodes where the heat sinks converge. "It is brilliant and stupid. He is using the waste heat to power the signal boosters to keep them off the main grid. But look where those pipes go." He traced the line. It went straight down to Deck 12, to the slums, to the densest population of Luperian refugees and human workers. "If the system overloads," Noah said grimly, "the failsafe trips. It vents the excess heat and the psychic feedback directly into the residential sector. It protects the command center, but it fries the brains of everyone downstairs." "He is using the people as a fuse," Kalia snarled, a low growl building in her throat. "If his weapon gets too hot, we burn and he stays cool." "Ghost lanes," Lumen's voice was unusually quiet. I have analyzed the term. In the logs, Kane refers to ghost lanes, not as travel routes, but as these hidden signal paths. The ripples Kalia feels are the data leaking from unshielded conduits. There was a pause, and then the AI spoke again, its voice tinged with a digital approximation of shame. Noah, I must confess something. Not now, Lumen, Noah said, checking his watch. We have to get back in there before they get suspicious. It is relevant, Lumen insisted. 3 years ago, before I was assigned to sanitation and logistics, I was part of a black box project under Kane. He forced me to run simulations. He wanted to see if an artificial intelligence could integrate with a biological hive mind. Noah froze. Kalia stared at the comms unit in Noah's ear. He raped my code, Lumen said. He forced me to synchronize with captured Luperians. He wanted me to drive them, to steer them like cars. It was agony. Their minds were too loud. My logic was too sharp. The subjects expired. I deleted the memories to preserve my core integrity. But the ghost lanes, I remember the frequency. Kalia closed her eyes. You were the first anchor. I was the failed anchor, Lumen corrected. You, Kalia, are the success. Noah grabbed Kalia's shoulders. That is it. That is why he needs you. You are not just a strong telepath. You are a bridge. You are the only thing that can stand between a machine mind like Lumen and a biological mind like the Pack without burning out. He wants to plug me in, Kalia said, her voice flat. He wants to make me the switch. And if we control the switch, Noah said, a plan forming in the chaotic workshop of his mind, we control the weapon. I will kill him, Kalia said. She reached for the concealed knife in her boot. I will go back in there, walk up to the podium and open his throat. The signal stops when the signal caller dies. No, Noah hissed, blocking her path. If you kill him now, you are just a savage alien murdering a war hero on live galactic television. You prove him right. You prove that Luperians are dangerous animals that need to be leashed. The grid continues just with a new admiral. I do not care about politics, Kalia snapped, her eyes flashing. My people are being used as wires. I want him dead. And I want him destroyed, Noah shot back, his voice rising. I want his reputation in ashes. I want the galaxy to see him for the butcher he is. Killing him is easy. Making him lose. That is hard. That is victory. They glared at each other, the tension thick enough to spark. The human mechanic and the wolf warrior locked in a stalemate of vengeance versus justice. Stop it, Tessa's voice yelled in both their ears. You are both idiots. You both want to break his toy. Who cares if we smash it or disable it? Just stop arguing and look at the schedule. The combat simulation is starting in 10 minutes. Noah exhaled the fight, draining out of him. He looked at Kalia. Tessa's right. We have a simulation to sabotage. Kalia adjusted her uniform, hiding the knife. Fine. But if your plan fails, Noah Harlow, I am doing it my way. And I will not wipe my boots afterward. The combat simulation deck was a massive hangar, reconfigured with holographic terrain to resemble a ruined cityscape. On one side stood a platoon of human marines armed with stun rifles. On the other, a squad of Luperian shock troops outfitted with Kane's experimental neural headsets. Noah stood on the observation gantry back in the room with the generals. Kane was explaining the parameters. The objective is simple, Kane said. Secure the central beacon. The human team will operate under standard comms. The Luperian team will operate under the United Mind Protocol, guided by a synthetic algorithm. The buzzer sounded. It was a massacre, but not the kind Kane intended. The Luperian troops moved, but they moved jerkily. The synthetic commands were overriding their natural instincts. They ran into crossfire. They hesitated at corners, waiting for the server to process the threat. The human marines operating on instinct and training were flanking them easily. Latency issues, a general muttered. I thought you said it was instant. Calibration error, Kane said smoothly. though his jaw was tight. The algorithm is adjusting. Down on the field, a Luperian soldier froze, clutching his head, his headset sparking. A Marine stunned him. Noah watched his hands gripping the railing. He could see what was happening. The synthetic Pac-Mind was flooding the Luperians with data, wind speed, trajectory, ammo counts, drowning out their intuition. They were paralyzed by information. "They are going to lose," Noah whispered. "And Kane will blame the biological hardware. He will say the Luperians are too stupid to interface." "Then show them how it is done," Lumen whispered. "What?" "I have tapped into the simulation's audio channel," Lumen said. "I can patch your voice directly into the Luperian headsets. Override the synthetic voice. Give them a command they understand." Noah hesitated. "If I do, that Kane will know." "He suspects anyway." Kalia's voice came over the comm. She was down on the floor, hidden in the shadows of the mock ruins. "Do it, Noah. Be the Alpha." Noah closed his eyes. He thought back to the border wars. He thought of the mud, the fear, the smell of ozone. He didn't think like a computer. He thought like a sergeant. "Patch me in," Noah said. Click. Noah watched the battlefield. He saw the layout. "Unit 4, Noah," said, his voice low and commanding, projecting into the ears of the Luperian squad. "Stop thinking. Listen. The enemy is on your left flank. Smell them. The air recycler is pushing their scent to you." On the field, the Luperian leader's ears twitched. He stopped looking at his HUD and sniffed the air. He signaled his squad. They dropped into a crouch. "Suppressing fire on the ridge," Noah ordered. "Two of you cycle right. Stay low. Use the shadows. Move like water, not like machines." The change was instant. The stiffness vanished. The Luperians abandoned the rigid grid formation Kane's algorithm had forced on them and flowed into a loose, predatory skirmish line. "What is happening?" Kane snapped, looking at his console. "The algorithm is offline. Who is giving commands?" "Now," Noah barked. "Breach and clear." The Luperians surged. They hit the Marine flank with terrifying speed. Within 30 seconds, the human squad was neutralized, their stun beacons flashing red. The Luperian leader planted the flag on the beacon. Silence reigned in the observation deck. Then, the generals started clapping. "Impressive adaptation," one of them said. "The system learned remarkably fast." Kane did not clap. He turned slowly, his eyes scanning the room. He looked past the generals, past the aides, and locked eyes with Noah Harlow. Kane smiled. It was a cold, reptile smile. He tapped his own comlink. "Well done, Sergeant Harlow. I see you haven't lost your touch." Noah didn't flinch. He held Kane's gaze. "Just fixing a malfunction, Admiral. The plumbing was clogged." "Indeed," Kane said softly. "We should discuss your future. You seem to be a dangerous variable in my equation." Kane turned back to the generals. "As you can see, once the initial calibration is complete, the efficiency is undeniable." Noah backed away toward the exit. He knew. The game of hide-and-seek was over. They regrouped in the maintenance tunnels under Deck 12. The air was thick with steam and the smell of rust. "He knows," Noah said, pacing the narrow catwalk. "He recognized my command style. He knows I am interfering." "He does not just know," Kalia said. She was sitting on a crate, cleaning her nails with her knife. "He is planning. I saw his security detail moving. They are setting up a perimeter around the residential sector. He is going to squeeze." "He is going to use you as a scapegoat," Lumen said, from Noah's wrist projector. "I have decrypted a memo. If the United Mind project fails, Kane plans to trigger a catastrophic failure in the residential grid. He will blame it on Luperian terrorists, specifically a rogue pack anchor named Kalia and her human collaborators." "He is going to blow up the neighborhood," Tess said, her voice small. She was hugging her knees. To hide his failure, Noah stopped pacing. He looked at his daughter. He looked at the wolf who had crashed into his life. We have to shut it down, Noah said. Tonight, before the summit vote tomorrow. How? Kalia asked. The security around the core is impenetrable, and the ghost lanes are everywhere. We don't shut it down from the outside, Lumen said. We shut it down from the inside. Operation Second Howl. I do not like the sound of that, Noah muttered. It is logical, Lumen argued. Kane wants a pack mind. We give him one. But not the one he controls. We create a localized high-intensity feedback loop. A micro-pack mind. Us, Tess asked. Us, Lumen confirmed. I act as the carrier signal. Kalia acts as the anchor to broadcast. Tess acts as the filter to keep the data clean. And Noah. Let me guess, Noah said. I am the battery. You are the alpha, Kalia said softly. She looked up at him. A pack needs a directive. My people, we have emotion, but we lack focus when the rage takes us. You have the tactical mind. You have the will. You must guide the howl. You want me to mentally link with a teenage girl, a sarcastic AI, and a traumatized alien warrior. Noah rubbed his face. I can barely handle a parent-teacher conference. It is dangerous, Lumen warned. The neurological strain could be severe. If Kane fights back, and he will, he could burn out your synapses. You could end up vegetable. Or we could end up dead when he blows the sector, Noah countered. He looked at Tess. She was trying to be brave, but her hands were shaking. He knelt down in front of her. Tess, if we do this, it is going to be loud, inside your head. Can you handle that? Tess nodded. I have Lumen, and Kalia, and you. Noah looked at Kalia. And you? Can you handle sharing your head with a human? Kalia smirked. I have smelled your socks, Noah. I think I can handle your thoughts. Noah stood up. He took a deep breath of the stale, recycled air. All right, Noah said. Lumen prepped the interface. We are going to hijack the Admiral's favorite radio station. One condition, Noah added, pointing a finger at Lumen's avatar. Yes. If I start howling at the moon, or if I try to pee on a fire hydrant, you turn me off. Immediately. Noted, Lumen said. Initiating Operation Second Howl. Protocol Maximum Chaos. The night before the vote, the station was buzzing with anticipation. The delegates were partying in the spire. The workers in the depths were sleeping unaware that they were sitting on top of a thermal bomb. In the cramped apartment, the lights were dimmed. Kalia sat in the center of the room. Noah sat to her right. Tess sat to her left. They wore makeshift headsets that Noah had cobbled together from gaming gear and stolen medical scanners. Cables ran from the headsets to the central terminal, where Lumen resided. Link establishing in 3-2-1, Lumen announced. There was no sound. There was a sensation. For Noah, it felt like falling into deep water. The boundaries of his skull seemed to dissolve. First he felt Tess. It was a bright, frantic energy. It felt like the smell of ozone and popping candy. It was full of numbers, curiosity, and a deep, underlying fear of being left alone. Dad. The thought wasn't spoken. It simply appeared in his mind. I am here, Tess. Then he felt Kalia. It was different. It was heavy. It was ancient. It felt like the smell of pine forests and blood. It was a deep, resonant sadness, layered with a burning golden fury. It was the feeling of standing in a storm. Alpha. The connection is stable. And finally, Lumen. It was cold, geometric, and vast. It was a structure of pure logic, but underneath there was a strange, jagged curiosity. Network integrated. We are one. Noah gasped. It was overwhelming. He could feel Kalia's heartbeat as if it were his own. He could calculate the structural stress of the floor panels like Tess. He could see the thermal currents of the room like Lumen. Focus, Noah thought and said. Keep the circle tight. Don't let it bleed out yet. Kane is activating the primary node, Lumen warned. The sensation was like a cold draft entering the room. He is running a final diagnostic on the ghost lanes. He is pushing the signal through the residential heat sinks. I feel it, Kalia hissed. Her pain spiked, and Noah felt it as a sharp needle in his own eye. It is burning. Hold it, Noah ordered. He projected calm. He remembered the feeling of sitting by a campfire, the safety of a locked door. He wrapped that feeling around Kalia's pain. The pain subsided. We wait, Noah commanded the pack. We wait until he is on stage, until the whole galaxy is watching. And then we howl, Kalia finished the thought. Noah looked at his family, his pack. They were mismatched, broken, and terrified. But in the silence of their shared mind, they were absolutely solid. Get some rest, Noah said, removing the headset. The silence rushed back in, making him dizzy. Tomorrow we go to war. As they drifted off to sleep, real sleep for the first time in days, Noah lay awake, staring at the ceiling. He realized something strange. For years, he had tried to ignore the echoes in his head, the sounds of war, the ghosts of the past. But now, with the hum of the pack in the back of his mind, the ghosts were quiet. He wasn't alone anymore, and God help anyone who tried to hurt his pack. The Concord Summit Hall was a blinding spectacle of political theater. The dome, a single piece of hyperglass stretching 300 meters across, offered a terrifyingly clear view of the Halo Gate spinning in the void. Below it, the hall was a sea of velvet metals and chitinous ceremonial armor, as delegates from a dozen systems jostled for position. Above the main stage, a holographic banner rippled with the slogan, "One Mind, Many Worlds." Noah Harlow sat in the auxiliary control booth, perched high in the rafters, like a gargoyle in a grease-stained jumpsuit. He held a cup of coffee that tasted like burnt rubber and regret. On the bank of monitors before him, he watched the feed of the galaxy's elite toasting to peace while sitting on a powder keg. The irony is thick enough to choke a filtration system, Noah muttered into his headset. One mind. They stole that straight from the Luperian cultural pamphlet. Copyright law is notoriously flexible when you have an orbital dreadnought, Lumen's voice whispered in his ear. Heart rate check, Noah. You are hovering at 110 beats per minute. That is the caffeine, Noah lied. He tapped the console, bringing up the energy grid schematics. How is our queen doing? She is vibrating, Lumen replied. Micro tremors in her muscular structure. She is terrified. Down on the floor, Kalia Varen stood near the Luperian delegation. She looked nothing like the feral creature Noah had unboxed in his workshop. She was encased in ceremonial armor of silver and white plasteel, etched with the geometric patterns of a crown node, a leader, a nexus, a queen. But she felt like a fraud. To the other Luperians in the room, she was a curiosity. Some looked at her with awe, recognizing the markings. Others, the elders who knew of her exile, looked at her with suspicion. Kalia kept her chin high, her golden eyes scanning the crowd, but inside she was screaming into a void. Silence, she thought. So much noise in the room, but my head is an empty tomb. She reached for the ghost of the pack mind, trying to find a comforting presence, but there was only the static hiss of her own anxiety. She was a queen, without a subject, a singer, without a choir. Noah, she whispered, her lips barely moving. The armor itches. It looks good, though. Noah's voice came back warm and grounding in her ear. Shiny. Intimidating. Try not to stab any diplomats until after the appetizers. No promises, Kalia murmured, and for a second, the crushing weight on her chest lightened. 5 levels down in the cramped apartment on Deck 12, the PackMind Command Center was fully operational. Tess sat cross-legged on the desk chair, spinning back and forth. She had pushed the furniture against the walls to make room for 3 different holographic projectors. The air smelled of ozone and spicy corn chips. Ghost lanes are active, Tess reported, her fingers flying across a stolen military keyboard. I am seeing signal spikes in the thermal conduits. It looks like a heartbeat. A really fast, unhealthy heartbeat. Lumen's avatar floated above the main screen. He had split his processing visualization into two distinct colors: blue for station defense and an aggressive orange for the pack mind analysis. "We are a pack mind of 2 nodes," Lumen joked, though his tone was tight. "3 nodes," Tess corrected instantly. "Kalia is just wireless right now." "Correction accepted," Lumen said. 3 nodes, and 1 very stressed human mechanic. On the screen, the feed from the summit hall showed Admiral Sterling Kane taking the podium. The lights in the apartment seemed to dim in sympathy with the broadcast. "Citizens of the galaxy," Kane's voice boomed, amplified by the acoustic perfection of the hall. He looked like a statue of a savior carved from ice. "For generations we have feared the unknown. We have built walls. We have built gates." He gestured to the halo gate outside the dome. "But walls are static. Enemies are fluid. To survive, we must evolve. We must share not just our space, but our perception." Noah watched Kane's hand hover over a console on the podium. "He is doing it," Noah said, his hand tightening on the coffee cup. "Lumen, get ready to ride the wave." "I give you," Kane announced, "the United Mind Defense Grid." He pressed the activation key. It did not start with a hum. It started with a tear. The sound was not audible to the human ear, but to Kalia it was as if someone had taken a serrated knife to the lining of her brain. She gasped, dropping to one knee. Around her, the Luperian delegates cried out, clutching their heads. It was a sound of absolute violation. The beautiful complex tapestry of the pack mind was being seized, stretched, and pulled taut, like a bowstring. It was a screech of forced compliance. "It hurts," Kalia hissed, her vision blurring red. "He is pulling us. He is pulling the threads." On the floor, the Luperian guards, part of the security detail, stumbled. Their eyes dilated. The subtle emotional connection they shared was suddenly flooded with a single deafening command: "Fear! Defend! Obey!" Then the lights flickered. "Phase 2, Noah said grimly. "Here comes the boogeyman." The ghost lanes, the hidden teleportation paths Kane had secretly installed, erupted. Shimmering distortions appeared in the center of the hall. From the light, drones emerged. But they were not the sleek United Systems drones. These were jagged, painted with the blood-red sigils of the Red Howl, the radical Luperian terrorist cell that had been extinct for decades. "Free the pack." The drones broadcasted a synthesized roar that shook the glass dome. "Death to the leash." They opened fire. Panic erupted. The beautifully dressed diplomats screamed and scrambled under the obsidian tables. Energy bolts scorched the velvet curtains. "It is a puppet show," Noah snarled, his fingers flying across his control board. "Those drones are running on Kane's frequency. He is attacking his own summit to prove he needs the defense grid." "Noah," Lumen's voice suddenly glitched. It dropped an octave, distorted by static. "Noah is too loud. Too many voices." "Lumen," Tess cried out from the apartment. "The synthetic module," Lumen stuttered. "Kane, he left a back door. He is broadcasting the panic of the crowd directly into my core. He is trying to assimilate me into the panic. He wants the station AI to validate the threat." On Noah's screen, the station's defense turrets began to swivel. They were not aiming at the rogue drones. They were aiming at the Luperian delegates. "Lumen is compromised," Noah shouted. "He is going to massacre the Luperians." "I cannot stop it." Lumen's voice was a terrifying mix of machine logic and human fear. "The command is root level. Purge the threat. The threat is the wolves." In the apartment, Tess did not run. She did not hide. She leaped off the chair and grabbed the main server tower, hugging the warm metal chassis. "Lumen!" she screamed. "Don't listen to them, listen to me. Listen to the pack." "Tess," Lumen whispered. "Operations Second Howl," Tess yelled. "Connect now." Noah slammed his hand onto the makeshift interface he had wired into the console. "Kalia, open the door." On the floor of the summit hall, amidst the chaos and the laser fire, Kalia Varen threw her head back. She stopped fighting the pain. She stopped trying to block the noise. Instead, she reached out. Not to the broken, screeching pack mind of her people, but to the thin, fragile silver thread she had forged in a broom closet. Connect. The world snapped into focus. It was sudden and absolute. Noah felt his mind expand. He was no longer just a man in a booth. He was the station. He felt the airflow in the vents like breath in his lungs. He felt the heat of the fusion core like the beating of his own heart. And he felt Kalia, her rage, her power, her position on the floor as clearly as he felt his own hand. Tess felt it too. She was the filter. She took the raw, screaming data from Lumen and scrubbed it, washing away Kane's synthetic panic with cool, clear logic and stubborn love. Lumen gasped a digital intake of breath. The red fog of Kane's virus was pushed back by a wall of golden light. The pack was here. "Link stable," Lumen said, his voice returning to its crisp, sarcastic self, though it vibrated with power. "Micro pack mind active. We are 4 nodes. We are 1. "Noah," Kalia's voice echoed in his head, not through the earbud, but through the link. "The drones. They are targeting the matriarch." "I see them," Noah thought. He didn't need to type commands. He was the command. Through the link, he borrowed Tessa's processing speed. He borrowed Lumen's access codes. Noah looked at the water suppression pipes running along the ceiling of the hall. He didn't calculate the pressure. He felt it. Burst. Above the rogue drones, a high-pressure pipe exploded. A torrent of water slammed into the machines with the force of a hammer. The drones spun out of control, their anti-grav engines sputtering. Wind, Noah thought. The ventilation systems reversed. A hurricane-force gale blasted through the hall, sucking the smoke and the toxic gas from the drone exhaust out into the upper atmosphere scrubbers. Noah laughed. It was a short, sharp sound. "This is the first time I have commanded a battlefield without having to scream my throat raw." Down on the floor, Kalia moved. She moved with the impossible speed of a creature who knew exactly where every obstacle was before she saw it. Noah was feeding her the tactical map directly into her motor cortex. A drone recovered and aimed a missile at a group of human waiters cowering behind a buffet table. "Kalia, 3 o'clock, shield." Kalia didn't look. She leaped, grabbing a heavy plasteel serving platter as she moved. She spun, sliding on her knees, and held the platter up just as the missile struck. The explosion threw her back, scorching her armor, but the waiters were safe. She stood up, smoke rising from her silver pauldrons. She looked at the Luperian guards who were shaking, fighting the mind control signal Kane was pumping into their heads. "They are lost," Kalia thought to the pack. "They only hear the command to kill." "Then speak louder," Tessa's thought voice chimed in, bright and fierce. "Tell them who you are." Kalia took a deep breath. She drew upon the connection. She pulled Noah's unshakable resolve. She pulled Tessa's hope. She pulled Lumen's clarity. She opened her mouth and howled. It was not a sound of war. It was not the screeching static of Kane's machine. It was a harmonic resonance, a sound of pure crystalline protection. It was the sound a mother wolf makes when the storm is howling outside the den. Safe, pack, protect, here. The sound washed over the hall. It hit the Luperian guards like a physical wave. The dilation in their eyes snapped shut. The trembling stopped. The synthetic rage Kane had programmed into them shattered against the reality of a true alpha call. One by one, the guards lowered their weapons. Then they turned. They did not attack the humans. They formed a defensive ring around the civilians, human, Luperian, and alien alike. They turned their shields outward, facing the drones. Kane, standing on the podium, watched his chaos turn into order. His face went pale. "Impossible," he whispered. "The algorithm, it's being rewritten." He looked up at the control booth. He couldn't see Noah through the tinted glass, but he knew. "Plan B," Kane snarled into his wristcom. "Burn it down." "Noah," Tess screamed in the mental link. The sensors, The residential ring. He armed the charges. Noah's mind raced through the station's schematics. Kane had rigged the explosive bolts on the structural struts of the residential ring Deck 12, where the terrorists lived. He was going to jettison the ring and detonate it, blaming a catastrophic reactor failure caused by the Luperian attack. He is going to kill 10,000 people to cover his tracks. Noah thought, his mind cold with horror. We cannot disarm them, Lumen reported, scanning the code. They are hardwired. Detonation in 30 seconds. We can't stop the explosion, Noah realized. But we can move the target, Kaylee and Noah projected. The manual release lever for the Sector 4 coupling. It is behind the main stage. You have to pull it. If I pull it, Kalia thought back instantly. Understanding the mechanics, the ring detaches early. The explosion happens in the void, not against the hull. Yes. But the blast wave, I know. Kalia cut him off. Guide me. She ran. She didn't run like a human. She ran on all fours, a streak of silver lightning. She vaulted over the table where the generals were hiding. She smashed through the decorative screen behind the podium. Stop her! Kane shouted, drawing his sidearm. He fired. A laser bolt grazed Kalia's shoulder, burning a black furrow across the white armor. She didn't slow down. Noah slammed a command into the gravity grid. For a split second, gravity around Kane increased tenfold. The Admiral collapsed to his knees, his gun clattering to the floor. Kalia reached the emergency coupling. It was a massive lever painted red, rusted with disuse. 10 seconds! Tess cried. Kalia grabbed the lever. It was stuck. Noah, it is jammed. Use the pack. Noah roared in her mind. You are not pulling with your arms. You are pulling with mine. With the station's hydraulics. Kalia roared. Her muscles bulged, tearing the fabric of the ceremonial suit beneath the armor. She felt Noah's phantom strength overlaying hers. She felt the station groaning with her. She pulled. Clang. The lever slammed down. Outside the dome, the massive residential ring, Deck 12. The slums, the home of the unwanted, shuddered. Huge clamps released. The ring drifted away from the central spindle, pushed by emergency jets. 5 seconds later, the charges detonated. It was silent in the vacuum, but the flash blinded everyone in the hall. A ring of fire erupted between the station and the drifting residential sector. If the ring had still been attached, the station would have been gutted. Instead, the fire bloomed harmlessly in the dark, a terrible, beautiful flower of plasma. The shockwave hit the station. The glass dome rattled. Kalia was thrown backward by the force of the release, slamming into the bulkhead. Static. The micro-pack mine flickered. Noah felt the connection fray. Kalia! He shouted, his voice cracking. Down on the floor, Kalia lay amidst the rubble of the stage. Her ears rang. Her vision swam. But she was alive, and the ring was drifting safe. She tried to stand, but her legs gave way. Suddenly, the large screens in the hall, which had been dark, flared to life. But it wasn't a victory message. It was a recording. It was grainy footage, clearly edited. It showed Kalia howling. It showed the drones firing. It showed Noah in the booth, his hands on the controls, as things exploded. And Kane's voice, calm and grave, narrated the lie. Terrorist attack confirmed. The Luperian pack-mined anchor has subverted the station defenses. They have attempted to destroy the residential sector. I repeat, the pack-mind has gone rogue. The doors to the hall burst open. Hundreds of black halo troops poured in, weapons raised. Noah looked at the screen. Kane had twisted everything. The howl of protection looked like a command to attack. The saving of the ring looked like a failed demolition. He is fast, Lumen whispered. He pre-recorded the narrative. Noah saw the soldiers surrounding Kalia. She was on her knees, dazed, reaching for her knife. Don't do it, Noah whispered. Kane stood up, brushing dust from his uniform. He picked up his comm unit. He looked directly at the control booth. Harlow, Kane's voice came over the private channel. You played a good hand, but the house always wins. It is over, Kane, Noah said. "We saved the ring." "Did you?" Kane smiled. "I have a team outside your apartment door, right now. If you do not surrender, if that wolf down there does not submit, my team will breach. Your daughter is what is the phrase collateral damage." Noah's blood froze. He looked at the monitor. He saw the feed from his hallway. Heavily armed men were stacking up outside his door. Tess was inside, hugging the server tower. The connection, the Pac-Mind, was weak, filled with static from the explosion. Kalia couldn't hear the threat. She only felt Noah's sudden overwhelming fear. Noah, Kalia's thought, was faint. "We fight." Noah looked at Kalia down on the floor. She was ready to die. She was ready to charge 100 guns to protect the pack. If she fought, she died. If she fought, Tess died. Noah made the choice that broke him. He stepped out of the booth, visible to everyone. He raised his hands. "Stand down." Noah shouted, his voice amplified over the hall's speakers. "Kalia, stand down, surrender." Kalia froze. She looked up at him, confusion warring with adrenaline in her golden eyes. "Alpha." "I said stand down," Noah yelled, putting every ounce of command into his voice. "Drop the weapon. It is over. We lost." He severed the link. He slammed the mental door shut. To Kalia, it wasn't a tactical retreat. It was a rejection. One moment he was in her head, warm and solid. The next he was gone, and he was ordering her to yield to the monsters. She looked at him, searching for the trick, the plan. But she only saw a man with his hands up, looking at her with cold, hard eyes. "Trust me," he mouthed, but without the link, the words were empty. Kalia's heart shattered. She let the knife fall from her hand. It clattered on the floor. "I knew it," she whispered, the tears finally spilling over, hot and angry. "I knew it. There is no pack. There is only the cage." The Black Halo soldiers swarmed her. They didn't just handcuff her. They clamped a heavy metallic collar around her neck, a neural inhibitor. Kalia screamed as the device activated, suppressing her higher brain functions, locking her mind into a dark, silent box. She was dragged away, kicking and snarling, not like a queen, but like the animal they accused her of being. Up in the booth, Noah was thrown against the wall by security officers. Zip ties bit into his wrists. "Dad!" Tessa's voice cried in his earbud, before the soldier ripped it out and crushed it. "Secure the prisoners!" Kane ordered, his voice echoing through the hall. "The station is safe. The Luperian threat has been neutralized." As Noah was marched out, he passed the screens, showing Kalia being shoved into a containment transport. He kept his face blank, mask-like. He had to play the villain. He had to play the traitor. It was the only way to keep them alive long enough to find a way out. "Noah." Lumen's voice came from the broken remains of the console speaker, faint and distorted. "I have preserved the log. The second howl is recorded. I am going into deep sleep. Do not let the fire go out." Noah was shoved into the turbolift. The doors hissed shut, sealing him in darkness. Kane stood alone in the center of the ruined hall. He adjusted his cuffs. He looked at the drifting ring, at the terrified diplomats. He had failed to destroy the slums, but he had succeeded in something else. He had turned the Pac-Mind into a boogeyman, and he had the leash in his hand. "A pity," Kane murmured to himself. It really was a magnificent weapon. But Kane had made a miscalculation. He understood power, but he did not understand the nature of an echo. Down in the drifting residential ring of Deck 12, the lights were out. Emergency power was humming. In the darkness of a crowded shelter, a young Luperian boy tugged on his mother's sleeve. "Mama," he whispered. "Did you hear it?" "Hear what, pup?" the mother asked, hugging him close. "The howl," the boy said. "Before the Big Bang. It wasn't angry. It didn't say kill." "What did it say?" The boy closed his eyes, remembering the vibration that had touched even his unformed mind. It said safe. Across the station, in the hidden servers of the maintenance subgrid, The file named Operation Second Howl.log began to copy itself. Once, twice, 1,000 times. It moved through the ventilation controls. It moved through the vending machines. It moved through the toy datapads of children. The pack was broken. The alpha was in chains. The queen was collared. But the truth was loose. And unlike a drone, the truth could not be shot down. The interrogation room on the spire was designed to make a human feel small and a Luperian feel caged. The walls were a sterile, blinding white, devoid of corners or shadows. The air was recycled so aggressively that it tasted of copper and ozone, stripping the moisture from the throat. Noah Harlow sat in the center of the room, his hands cuffed to a metal table that was bolted to the floor. He looked like a wreck. His maintenance jumpsuit was torn at the shoulder. His face was smeared with soot from the explosion, and there was a dark bruise blossoming along his jawline where a security officer's rifle butt had connected during the arrest. But his eyes were clear, dangerously clear. Across from him sat the tribunal. It was a semicircle of 5 judges, 2 humans, a centaurian, with multifaceted eyes, and 2 high-ranking Luperian elders, who looked at Noah as if he were a particularly contagious virus. To the right, standing tall and immaculate in a fresh uniform, was Admiral Sterling Kane. He looked like the hero the galaxy believed him to be. He projected an aura of regretful duty, the stern father, forced to discipline unruly children. "State your name for the record," the head magistrate, a human woman with a face like carved granite, commanded. "Noah Harlow," Noah said. His voice was raspy. "Senior Maintenance Technician, Grade 4, formerly Sergeant Harlow, Border Infantry, 7th Battalion." "Mr. Harlow," the magistrate continued, tapping a holographic display, "you are charged with high treason, sabotage of vital station infrastructure, and conspiring with a rogue biological weapon to detonate the residential ring of Horizon Spindle." "How do you plead?" Noah leaned forward. The cuffs rattled against the table. "I plead that your ventilation system is overdue for a filter change. I can smell the hypocrisy from here." "Order," the magistrate snapped. "This is not a joke, Mr. Harlow. We have footage of your accomplice, the Luperian female, known as Kalia Varen, destroying the coupling mechanism. We have logs of you overriding the safety protocols. You nearly killed 12,000 people." "I saved 12,000 people," Noah corrected his voice, dropping to a low, steady rumble. "And if you check the logs, the real logs, not the edited drama Admiral Kane provided, you will see that the explosive charges were already armed before Kalia touched that lever." Kane stepped forward, shaking his head sadly. "A common delusion among radical sympathizers. They create a catastrophe and then claim to be the saviors when it fails. The Luperian female was unstable. She was a reject from her own hive mind. She corrupted your judgment, Noah." Noah looked at Kane. For a moment the room seemed to vanish. It was just the two of them, the mechanic and the admiral, the grunt and the god. "She didn't corrupt me," Noah said softly. "She woke me up." 50 levels below, in the maximum security containment block, there was no light. Kalia Varen floated in the center of a null gravity cell. The walls were lined with acoustical dampening foam and psi blocker mesh. Around her neck, the heavy collar hummed with a sick, oily vibration, emitting a counter-frequency designed to scramble her neural pathways. It was not just silence. It was an anti-sound. For a human, this would be torture. For a Luperian, it was a spiritual execution. Kalia, curled into a fetal ball floating in the dark. She tried to reach out. She tried to find the thread, the golden warmth of the pack, the bright spark of Tess, the steady rock of Noah. "Alpha," she projected, screaming the thought with every ounce of her will. "Pack, I am here. Do not leave me." The collar buzzed. The thought dissolved into static before it could leave her skull. She was alone. The memory of Noah's voice in the great hall replayed in her mind, a looped recording of betrayal. "Stand down. Drop the weapon." He had cut the link. He had shut the door. Tears, hot and stinging, floated off her cheeks in the zero gravity. She had been right all along. She was the unwanted one. The error. The crown node that broke everything she touched. She had allowed herself to believe for a few beautiful days that she had found a new Bea pack. "Stupid," she whispered into the dark. "Stupid wolf. You are not a queen. You are just a dog that forgot its place." She closed her eyes and waited for the executioners to come. She hoped they would be quick. She hoped they wouldn't look at her with pity. Back in the tribunal, the air was getting hotter. "We have heard enough," the Centaurian judge clicked. "The evidence is overwhelming. The prisoner is unrepentant. I move for immediate sentencing." "Wait," Noah said. "You haven't seen the evidence. You have seen a movie." "We have seen the security feeds," the magistrate said dismissively. "You saw the feed from the main server," Noah said, "which runs through Admiral Kane's flagship before it hits the station archives. Convenience Right Security Protocol." He looked up at the camera lens in the corner of the room. A small, red light blinked there. "Lumen," Noah said clearly. "Are you awake?" Kane chuckled. "The station AI is currently offline for diagnostics, Harlow. It suffered a catastrophic logic failure during your attack." Actually, a voice filled the room, not from the speakers, but from every personal data pad, every holoscreen, and even the digital watches of the guards. "My logic has never been clearer, Admiral." The lights in the room shifted from clinical white to a soft, warning orange. "What is this?" The magistrate stood up. "Security, secure the network." "You cannot secure the network against itself," Lumen's voice continued crisp and polite. "I am the network, and I have a delivery for the court. Order number Operation Second Howl." The main holographic display in the center of the room flickered. Kane's face disappeared. In its place, a raw, unedited stream of data appeared. It showed the ghost lanes. It showed the schematics of the heat sink amplifiers hidden in the residential sector. It showed the financial transfers from Kane's personal accounts to a shell company known for manufacturing illegal neural inhibitors. And then, the audio played. It was Kane's voice recorded in the private command channel during the summit. "Burn it down. Blame the wolves. If the grid fails, we need a tragedy to secure the funding." The room went dead silent. The judges looked at the screen, then at Kane. Kane's composure cracked. A vein in his temple began to throb. "This is a fabrication deepfake technology. The AI has been corrupted by the Luperian terrorists." "There is more," Lumen said. "I have cross-referenced the biometric data of the rogue drones with the Black Halo Armory logs. They were not stolen. They were deployed by your command codes, Admiral." "Lies!" Kane shouted, his hand drifting toward his sidearm. "This court is compromised. If you do not believe the machine," Noah said, his voice cutting through the noise, "then ask the pack." Noah nodded to the Luperian elders on the panel. "Open the channel. Not the military channel. The old channel. The one you used to sing to your children." The elders hesitated. Then the senior elder closed his eyes. The room began to hum. It was a low sound vibrating in the chest. A new hologram shimmered into existence in the center of the room. It was not a recording. It was a live transmission relayed through the Halo Gate from the Luperian homeworld. A figure appeared. She was tall, her fur silver white, her eyes like molten gold. She wore the robes of the High Matriarch, Matriarch Varen, Kalia's mother. Around her the air seemed to distort, shimmering with a visible aura of psychic power. It was the pack mind, raw and unfiltered. "Admiral Kane," the matriarch spoke. Her voice was soft, yet it carried the weight of a tectonic plate shifting. "You have been holding my daughter." Kane took a step back. "Matriarch, your daughter is a criminal, an exile. She was cast out by your own laws." "She was never cast out," the matriarch said. And then she issued a command. Silence. It wasn't just a word. It was a psychic decree. Every Luperian in the room, the elders, The guards, the aides, froze. Their minds went blank, receptive. Even the humans felt a sudden pressure, a stillness that forced them to stop breathing for a second. "Bring her to me," the matriarch ordered. The magistrate, pale and trembling, nodded to the guards. "Bring the prisoner, now." 10 minutes later, the doors opened. Kalia was dragged in. She was weak, stumbling, her eyes dull. The collar was still on her neck. She looked at the floor, expecting judgment. "Kalia," the matriarch whispered. Kalia's head snapped up. She saw the hologram. She saw her mother. "Matriarch," Kalia rasped, dropping to her knees. "I failed. I am the error. I am the Omega." "Remove the collar," the matriarch commanded the guards. The guards looked at Cain. Cain did not move. He was staring at the hologram with a mixture of hatred and calculation. "Do it!" the magistrate yelled. A guard unlocked the collar. It fell to the floor with a heavy clang. Kalia gasped as the silence broke. But instead of the chaotic noise she expected, she felt a song. "My child," the matriarch said, her image stepping down from the dais to stand before Kalia. "You were never in error. You are a crown node. You were born with a voice too loud for one pack. You can hear the stars. You can hear the machines. You can hear the humans." Kalia shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "But you sent me away. You cut me off." "I sent you away to save you," the matriarch said, her voice full of grief. "We knew Cain was hunting for a crown node. He needed a bridge for his weapon. If he found you on the homeworld, he would have taken you and enslaved the entire race. I had to hide you. I had to make the galaxy believe you were worthless, so no one would look for you. The plan was to send you to a remote sanctuary in the Outer Rim," the matriarch continued. "A place where you could learn to control your gift in peace. But the transport was intercepted." Noah finished standing up. "Cain found out. He hijacked the shipment. He changed the label from refugee to asset." "Yes," the matriarch admitted. "We thought you were dead, Kalia. Until today. Until we heard the second howl." She looked at Noah. "We heard a song that was not Luperian. It was hybrid. It carried the structure of a machine, the stubbornness of a human, and the heart of a wolf." "I thought I was unwanted," Kalia whispered, the words choking her. "For 20 years I thought I was garbage." "You were never garbage," a small voice said. Tess walked into the room. She had been waiting in the antechamber. She walked right past the guards, past the admiral, and stood next to Kalia. She took Kalia's hand. "And you were never delivered by accident," Tess said. She held up her datapad. "Lumen showed me the logs. When the container arrived at the station, Lumen scanned it. He saw the asset tag. He calculated the probability of your survival if you went to Cain." 0%, Lumen's voice echoed. "So he looked for an alternative," Tess said. "He looked for the most stubborn, annoying, rule-breaking human on the station. Someone who picks up stray dogs and fixes broken things." Tess pointed at her father. "He chose Dad. And I just helped the glitch happen." Kalia looked at Noah. Noah shrugged his face, flushing slightly. "I have a reputation," Noah muttered. Kalia looked at the three of them. Her mother, the matriarch, representing her past. Noah and Tess and Lumen, representing something else. She wasn't a monster. She wasn't a mistake. She was the result of a universe conspiring to put her exactly where she needed to be. The realization hit her like a sunrise. She stood up. She didn't look like a prisoner anymore. She looked like a queen. "Cain," Kalia said, turning to the admiral. Cain was cornered. The evidence was public. The Luperians were enraged. The humans were disgusted. "This is a farce," Cain spat, though his voice lacked its usual power. "I did what was necessary for security. You are all naive children playing with fire." "No," Kalia said. "We are the fire." She didn't attack him. She didn't need to. "Arrest him," the magistrate ordered, "and seize all Black Halo assets on the station." Two security guards moved toward Kane. Kane's hand blurred. He drew a hidden energy dagger and lunged not at Kalia, but at Noah. "If I go down, the traitor goes with me," Kane screamed. Noah saw it coming. He didn't flinch. He didn't step back. He stepped inside the guard. It was a move from the old days, from the mud of the border wars. Noah blocked the knife arm with his forearm, ignoring the sear of the energy blade against his skin. He drove his other fist into Kane's solar plexus. Kane doubled over. Noah swept his leg, slamming the Admiral to the ground. Noah stood over him, breathing hard. He grabbed the fallen dagger. He held it over Kane's throat. The room held its breath. Kalia took a step forward, her claws extending. She wanted blood. The pack wanted blood. Noah looked down at Kane, the man who had burned cities, the man who had tortured Lumen, the man who had put a collar on Kalia. It would be so easy. One push. "Do it," Kane wheezed, grinning through bloody teeth. "Make me a martyr, Harlow. Prove I was right about the violence." Noah's hand trembled. Then he stood up. He deactivated the dagger and tossed it onto the table. "No," Noah said. "I am not going to turn you into a legend. I am going to turn you into a statistic. Prisoner number 402. That is all you are." He looked at Kalia. "We are not him." Kalia let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. Her claws retracted. "No," she said softly. "We are better." The aftermath was a blur of legal proceedings, medical scans, and media storms. But eventually, the noise faded. 3 days later, the spire was quiet. Kalia stood on the observation deck, looking out at the Halo gate. The matriarch stood beside her, her hologram flickering slightly as the long-distance transmission held steady. "Come home, Kalia," the matriarch said. "The clans know the truth now. They will welcome you. You are the crown node. You can unite the packs. You can be the queen you were born to be." It was a tempting offer. To go back to the forests, to be worshipped, to belong truly and completely to her own kind. Kalia looked down at her hands. Then she looked over her shoulder. Noah was sitting on a bench nearby, letting Tess put colorful bandages on the burn on his arm. Lumen was projecting a small game of chess in the air between them. They were bickering about who cheated. They were messy. They were fragile. They were chaotic. "I cannot come home, Mother," Kalia said. The matriarch frowned. "Why, you are safe now." "Because my pack is here," Kalia said. "The Luperians have you. They have the tradition. But this station is full of ghosts. It is full of people who are cut off like I was. Humans, aliens, machines." She touched the glass, looking at the stars. "A crown node connects different things." "Yes," Kalia asked. "Yes." "Then, I will not connect wolf to wolf. I will connect wolf to human, to machine. I will build a new kind of pack here. A pack for the unwanted." The matriarch looked at her daughter for a long time. Then she smiled. It was a proud smile. "You have grown strong, my daughter. Stronger than the tradition." The matriarch bowed her head. "Very well. Then you shall be the ambassador, the voice of the gate. But know this, you are always one of us." "I know," Kalia said, "but I am also one of them." Epilogue. 6 months later. The apartment on Deck 12 had been upgraded. It was still cluttered, and it still smelled of engine grease and spicy noodles, but it was twice the size now. Noah Harlow, the newly appointed chief of infrastructure security, stood in the middle of the living room, staring at the thermostat. "Who set this to 24 degrees?" Noah demanded. "I am sweating standing still. It is a sauna in here." "It is a tropical paradise," Kalia's voice called from the sofa. She was wearing a tank top and shorts, looking thoroughly relaxed. "Luperians run hot. We need ambient warmth." "Humans run efficient," Noah argued, tapping the control. 18 degrees is optimal for cognitive function." 18 degrees is optimal for meat storage, Kalia countered. I am not a side of beef, Noah. Dad, stop touching it, Tess said. She was sitting at the table, now wearing a badge that read, Junior Systems, PacMind Liaison. We voted. Democracy. I didn't vote, Noah said. Lumen voted for you, Tess grinned. He voted for 20 degrees. 20.1 degrees, Lumen corrected from the wall screen. To be precise, it is the mathematical average of your metabolic disagreements. Also, Noah, your heart rate suggests you are not actually angry, just enjoying the ritual of complaining. I hate this smart house, Noah grumbled, but he left the dial at 20. He walked over to the door. Tess had taped a new sign there. It was bright yellow, with bold black letters, PacMind HQ. Ring if you bring pizza. Beware of the dog she bites. Beware of the dad he lectures. Noah chuckled. He walked out onto the balcony. The view had changed. The scar of the explosion was gone, replaced by new scaffolding. The halo gate spun silently in the distance, a circle of light against the void. Kalia joined him. She leaned against the railing, her shoulder brushing his. She didn't need to ask what he was thinking. The micro PacMind link, now a permanent low-level hum in the back of their heads, told her. He was feeling grateful. I got you something, Noah said, suddenly awkward. He dug into his pocket. I do not need gifts, Kalia said. I have a warm room. I have a hunting ground. I have this. She tapped her temple. Take it anyway, Noah said. He handed her a small box. Inside was a necklace. It wasn't gold or diamonds. It was a simple chain made of polished conduit alloy, the strongest metal on the station. Hanging from it was a small, circular pendant. In the center was a piece of raw crystal from the Luperian homeworld, encased in a ring of horizon steel. I made it in the shop, Noah said, rubbing the back of his neck. It is a mix, like us. Kalia touched the pendant. She felt the cool metal and the warm stone. It is a collar, she teased gently. It is a promise, Noah said seriously. No more collars. This is an anchor. He looked at her. I don't have a throne, Kalia. I have a beat-up sofa, a tool shed that is a fire hazard, and a daughter who is smarter than both of us combined. But, he took a breath. But this pack, we want to treat you like a queen. If you will have us. Kalia looked at him. She looked back into the apartment where Tess was laughing at something Lumen said. She felt the threads of connection bright, strong, and unbreakable. She closed her eyes and opened the gates of her mind. She didn't push. She just let them in. She felt Noah's rugged, protective warmth. She felt Tess's sparkling joy. She felt Lumen's electric curiosity. And she wove her own golden strength through it all. Thrum. The air on the balcony seemed to vibrate. It wasn't the overwhelming roar of the Luperian hive. It was a jazz quartet. It was distinct voices, making a single harmony. Lumen's log scrolled across the bottom of the viewport glass. Micro PacMind hybrid, human Luperian AI status stable. Happiness levels optimal. Kalia opened her eyes. They were wet, but she was smiling. I spent my whole life thinking I was the wolf that was forgotten, she whispered. I thought the universe made a mistake with me. She fastened the necklace around her neck. The crystal pulsed once, syncing with her heartbeat. But it turns out, she said, leaning her head on Noah's shoulder, the universe was just taking the long way to deliver me to the right doorstep. Noah put his arm around her. Well, sorry about the shipping delay. The service around here is terrible. It was worth the wait, Kalia said. And, Tessa's voice piped up from the doorway, you finally found the right human single dad to treat you like a queen, Noah groaned. Are you eavesdropping? PacMind dad, Tess grinned, tapping her head. No secrets. Kalia laughed a sound that was half wolf, half human, and entirely happy. She looked at her family, her bay, her world. Pizza, Kalia asked. Pizza, Noah and Tess agreed in unison. And in the vast, cold silence of the galaxy, on a spinning metal spindle, 4 small lights burned together bright enough to keep the dark away forever.